Hello, today we're going to talk about soldering in the context of electronic circuits. Oftentimes soldering is used to join pieces of wire together or circuit elements. We can see an example of that is shown right here, where the two wires are soldered together. So another example would be if we have a circuit board, like the one shown right here. It has a bunch of little components on the top. Those are called surface mount components, which means that they're literally connected to the surface. And the solder holds them onto the board, so it provides a mechanical as well as an electrical connection. Another technology is called through-hole. You can see on this microcontroller right here, you have these header sockets, and the header sockets are connected to the board with pins right here which go through the board, thus through the holes, and then those are individually soldered on. The most common tool for soldering is called the soldering iron. This is the handle of the soldering iron right here. You can see when I touch the solder to the tip, it's melting. The smoke coming off of there is the flux burning off. The flux is used to molecularly clean the joint so that you can get a better solder connection. So this box right down here is the power supply or heater controller for the soldering iron, and it's adjustable. In other words, I could turn the knob, adjust the temperature for the application that I'm trying to solder for. So the solder is the consumable in this case, and we have a roll of solder right here. So there are different types of alloys. There's tin lead, there's tin antimony, which doesn't have any lead in it. It's a little bit safer. So depending on what you're doing, you'd use a certain type of solder, and then the thickness also varies depending on what you're soldering. Before a solder session begins, you want to make sure you're prepared. So preparation starts with safety. So safety glasses are definitely recommended, and those can protect your eyes from solder flying, flying bits of molten metal. And then you want to be wearing pants that would protect you in case you, say, drop the soldering iron in your lap. And a good option is a pair of, say, jeans or denim. It's a heavy-duty cotton. It's very flame resistant. Things to watch out for would be certain synthetic fabrics, which will burn almost instantly. Definitely want closed-toed shoes. You want your hair tied back. And you don't want loose things that could get into the work and potentially get burned or burn you. So the next thing we want to do is we wet the solder sponge. And the solder sponge is used to clean the soldering iron tip. And usually you want to use deionized water. So I put a little bit of deionized water on the solder sponge, and now I'm ready to turn on the soldering iron. So I turn the soldering iron on, it starts to heat up, and I might take a quick look at the tip. So I can see the tip is very shiny right there, so that means the tip's in good condition and it's going to probably work. And then I'm also seeing the temperature rising on the soldering iron console right there. So the next thing that you do is you'd be to set the temperature for the proper soldering application that you're trying to do. And for our application here, we're going to be setting it to around 750 degrees. The proper chain of events for soldering a joint are first cleaning the tip off, and then you apply the soldering iron to the work, and then you put the solder into the soldering iron that forms a molten pool. Now as that's happening, the heat is being transferred from the iron tip to the work, then the solder will flow into the joint, and then you can remove the heat from the joint at that point, and then you inspect your work once it's cooled off. So cooling off takes a matter of seconds because you're talking about dropping the temperature from, say, 500 degrees Fahrenheit until the solder freezes, so around the 300 to 400 degree range. So that's considered a cold joint, but watch out, it still might be very hot to the touch.